The small town had always been a quiet and peaceful place. Most days felt the same: people going to work, children riding their bicycles on the streets, and old neighbors sitting outside their houses, talking about the weather. In a place like this, nothing surprising ever happened. That is why the morning when the boy named Ethan disappeared felt so unreal, as if the whole town had suddenly woken up inside a strange dream. Ethan was known as a calm and thoughtful child. He liked exploring the woods behind his house, not because he was adventurous, but because he felt safe there. The tall trees, the soft leaves, and the gentle sound of the wind made him feel like the forest was talking to him. Sometimes he said he heard whispers, nothing scary, just a warm feeling, like someone calling his name from far away. His mother always told him it was only his imagination. But Ethan wasn't sure. Deep inside, he felt as if the forest knew him. On the morning he went missing, he woke up earlier than usual. The sunlight was still weak, and the sky was turning from dark blue to gray. Ethan sat up in his bed, confused, because he had seen something in his dream, something bright, like a shining shape made of light. It wasn't frightening. It almost felt familiar. He couldn't describe it, but he remembered one thing clearly. The dream was calling him toward the woods. He tried to ignore it, but the feeling kept pulling him after breakfast. Instead of staying inside like he usually did on weekends, he quietly slipped out. His mother thought he was in his room drawing cartoons, and his father was busy fixing the old radio in the living room. No one saw him walk out the back door and move toward the forest with slow, careful steps. The woods behind the town were not dangerous, but people usually warned their children not to wander too far. Ethan had always listened until that day. As he entered the trees, he didn't feel lost or scared. It was as if his feet knew exactly where they needed to go. The path under him felt different, too. Normally it was covered with dry leaves and small rocks, but today the ground felt smooth, almost warm, as if it had been touched by something unusual. The deeper Ethan went, the quieter the forest became. Even the birds stopped singing. Instead, there was a soft hum in the air, like distant music. Ethan recognized it immediately. It was the same sound from his dream. He looked around, trying to understand where it was coming from, but the sound felt like it was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Meanwhile, back in town, Ethan's parents were starting to worry. They had knocked on his bedroom door, calling his name again and again, but he didn't answer. When they finally opened the door, the room was empty. His school backpack was there, his shoes were on the floor, and his favorite toy sat on the table, untouched. Nothing looked disturbed, which made the silence even heavier. At first, they thought he had gone to the yard. But when they checked every corner of the house and couldn't find him, fear spread through them like cold water. They rushed to the neighbors, asking if anyone had seen him. No one had. Soon the whole street knew. People left their houses and joined the search, calling Ethan's name as they walked around the area. Some headed toward the playground. Others checked the shops and the old bus station. But no one thought to look deep inside the forest. Not yet. An hour passed. Then another. Panic grew. Someone finally suggested checking the woods. A group of neighbors walked toward the trees, shouting Ethan's name loudly, hoping to hear his voice echo back. But there was no answer. As they walked deeper, they found something strange. Several patches of ground where the soil looked burned, yet there were no signs of a fire. The burn marks were perfectly round, almost like shapes pressed into the earth. One man bent down and touched the soil, pulling his hand back quickly because it was warm. Too warm for a normal forest morning. Near the burned marks lay small broken pieces of something shiny. They didn't look like metal from machines or tools. They were thin, almost weightless, and glimmered even in the shade. One of the neighbors held a piece up and said he had never seen anything like it before. The others agreed. Nobody could explain what it was or how it ended up there. The police were called. Officers arrived, marking the area and taking pictures. They asked the parents dozens of questions, trying to understand if Ethan had been acting unusual. His mother explained about his dreams, though she felt embarrassed saying it out loud. She said Ethan sometimes felt drawn to the woods, but the officers didn't seem interested in dreams. To them, this looked like a simple missing child case at first. But once they saw the burned ground and the strange metal-like fragments, their expressions changed. They whispered among themselves, suddenly unsure what they were dealing with. While the humans were searching, something else was happening far beyond Earth, something no one in the town could have imagined. In the endless darkness of space. On the far side of a spiral galaxy, a group of beings had sensed a signal. It was faint, but powerful enough to travel across many light years. These beings were not human. They were large, winged creatures, known across star systems as the most feared and powerful dragons ever to exist. Their bodies were covered in shimmering scales, as hard as crystal and brighter than fire. Their eyes could see through storms, through darkness, even through walls of space itself. They had been searching for one thing for a long, long time, a human child. Not just any child, the dragons had ancient records, stories passed down for thousands of years. Speaking of a child from a small blue planet, a child with something rare inside him, something that could change the fate of many worlds. Their search had taken them across countless planets, through battles, storms, and places where even sunlight could not reach. Many believed the child did not exist. Yet the dragons never stopped looking. And now, after all these years, the signal they had been waiting for had finally appeared. It came from Earth. In their great crystal ship. The dragons gathered around a glowing sphere that showed a map of space. A tiny point of blue light appeared on it, the signal. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Their leader, Razak, moved forward. His wings folded neatly behind him, and his presence alone made the whole chamber tremble. His voice was deep and calm as he said that the search was over. They had found the location of the child. Every dragon in the room lowered its head with respect. They all knew what this meant. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ethan was still moving through the forest. The humming sound grew stronger until he reached a small clearing. The sunlight fell softly on the ground, and in the center of the clearing was something Ethan had never seen before. A circular mark was etched into the soil, glowing faintly as if it had absorbed the morning light, and kept it inside. Ethan stepped closer. The moment he touched the edge of the mark with his foot, a gentle wave of warmth moved through the air. Not hot, just warm enough to make him feel calm. He didn't know why, but he felt safe, as if he had arrived where he was meant to be. Back in town, the search had grown larger. People were getting tired, their voices hoarse from calling his name. His parents held on to each other, trying not to think the worst. No one had answers. No one understood the strange signs in the forest. Everyone feared something terrible had happened. But the truth was far stranger, and far bigger than anyone in the town could imagine. Ethan wasn't lost. He wasn't kidnapped. He wasn't in danger. He was being found. The dragons, speeding across the stars, were finally closing in on the child they had searched for their entire lives, unaware that the boy they sought was standing alone in a quiet forest, feeling a strange and gentle warmth rising from the ground beneath his feet. Whatever was going to happen next would change everything. The peaceful town, the dragons, Ethan's life, even the world itself. And this was only the beginning. The dragons' world was nothing like Earth. Their planet was covered in tall, glowing mountains, rivers that shined like melted silver, and skies so wide that even light seemed slow compared to the wings that crossed it. These dragons were powerful, wise, and respected across many worlds. Yet there was something strange about them, too, something almost gentle beneath their fierce appearance. They had strength, but they also had purpose. And that purpose had guided them for more years than anyone could count. For as long as their oldest memories reached back, they had been searching for one child from a distant planet. A child they knew only through ancient records and stories written long before even their ancestors were born. The records described a human boy, a boy who carried a rare spark inside him. It wasn't a weapon or magic. It was something far more important, something that connected worlds, something that could balance or break the energy that flowed through the galaxy. The dragons never stopped believing in the prophecy. Others doubted, mocked, or ignored it. But the dragons continued their search, traveling from star to star, leaving behind their home for many lifetimes. They had looked on planets covered in oceans, planets made of ice, and planets where the sky shone in colors no human eyes had ever seen. Each time they hoped they were close, and each time they found nothing. All that changed the moment they felt the signal dot in their great ship, a structure shaped like a giant crystal with wings of light. The dragons gathered as the signal grew stronger. The glowing sphere at the center of their chamber displayed the source, a small, blue planet, Earth, a world they had visited only from far above but never entered, because humans were not ready for their presence. But now, ready or not, the dragons felt they had no choice. The signal was too clear, too familiar. It matched the one described in the ancient scrolls. The boy they had been searching for was on Earth. The leader, Razak, stood at the front of the room. Though he was larger and stronger than the others, there was something calm and steady in his movements. He was not the kind of leader who ruled with fear. He ruled with patience and wisdom. When he spoke, his voice echoed softly through the chamber. "The child has awakened," he said. "After all these years, we have finally found him." The dragons around him lowered their wings in respect. They all understood the importance of what this meant. The galaxy had felt unbalanced for a long time. Strange storms had appeared between planets. Energy fields were becoming unstable, and things that had once flowed naturally across the stars were now shifting in unusual ways. Some worlds suffered droughts. Others faced unexpected darkness. Many believed it was only natural change. But the dragons knew it was because the one who carried the stabilizing spark had not yet been found. Until now, as the ship turned toward Earth, the galaxy outside them stretched like a river of light. Stars passed by slowly at first, and faster as the ship increased its speed. The dragons moved through the halls quietly, each one preparing for what was to come. Some gathered scrolls and maps, others checked the ancient tools they carried for guidance. But more than anything, they were preparing themselves for the moment they would finally see the child face to face. While they traveled through space, on Earth, things were becoming more confusing. Ethan's parents had not slept. The police officers had walked through the forest again and again, searching every corner, calling his name until their voices weakened. At night, the townspeople brought flashlights and lanterns. Some carried warm blankets in case Ethan was found cold or tired. Everyone worked together because they all cared. The town was small, and everyone knew everyone. Losing a child felt like losing part of the community. Ethan's mother sat near the edge of the forest, holding his small backpack in her hands. She kept running her fingers over the zipper, praying quietly, hoping for any sound or sign. His father paced nearby, stopping every few minutes to look toward the trees, as if Ethan would walk out at any moment. Even the officers, who tried to stay calm, exchanged worried looks when their parents weren't watching. But Ethan did not know about the search. He was still in the woods, surrounded by the soft humming sound that seemed to guide him. The glow in the clearing had faded as the sun rose higher, yet he stayed where he was, feeling oddly peaceful. He didn't feel hungry or scared or lonely. It was as if something invisible was wrapping around him gently, telling him he wasn't alone. He sat down on a fallen log, hugging his knees and looking up at the sky. He didn't know why, but he felt like something important was coming. He couldn't have explained it even if someone asked him. It wasn't a thought or a voice. It was a feeling deep, warm, and strange. Back in the sky, the dragon's ship approached Earth's orbit. They could now see the planet clearly, the swirling blue oceans, the white clouds, the green and brown shapes of the land. It looked peaceful, almost fragile. Razak watched it quietly, remembering the last time their kind had passed by this world. Humans had been far less advanced then, still struggling to understand the stars. But now they had machines, satellites, and the ability to detect unusual activity. "We must be careful," said one of the dragons behind him. "If humans see us, they might react with fear." "They will not see us," Razak replied calmly. "We shield our presence. We disturb nothing." The ship slowly lowered itself behind a layer of clouds where no satellites could see it. The dragons had technology far beyond anything Earth possessed, but they used it rarely. Their way was to observe quietly, not to interfere. Another dragon stepped forward, carrying a small crystal that glowed softly in its claws. "The signal is growing stronger," it said. "The child is awake, just as the scrolls said he would be." Razak nodded. He must not be frightened. We approach carefully. No sudden movement. The dragons moved into their landing formation, stretching their wings as the ship dimmed its lights. They were preparing to enter the forest, the place where the signal was coming from, though they still didn't know exactly what they would find. On Earth, the wind in the trees changed. It wasn't a storm or anything dangerous. It was just a shift, like the forest was taking a deeper breath. Leaves rustled softly. Birds grew still. For a moment, the whole area felt like it was waiting. Ethan noticed it too. The air around him became lighter, almost glowing. He stood up slowly, looking around, unsure what was happening. He felt no fear, but he felt something else, something like recognition, as if whatever was coming was connected to him in a way he didn't understand yet. Above him, hidden by the clouds, the dragons descended silently, their wings folding in as they approached the trees. Their ship dimmed until it looked like a shadow among the clouds. They were close, now closer than they had ever been. Razak closed his eyes for a moment and let the signal guide him. It led him straight to the forest clearing, straight to the place where Ethan stood alone, looking up at the sky. Thousands of years of searching were about to come to an end. The dragons did not know the boy's face. The boy did not know their purpose. But fate was moving them toward each other with gentle, careful hands. Whatever happened next would begin a story none of them could ever forget. Ethan stood quietly in the clearing, feeling the warm glow beneath his feet. The sunlight filtered through the trees, making tiny patterns dance on the ground. He felt calm, but also curious. He didn't know why, but he sensed that something big was about to happen. The humming sound that had guided him here was growing softer now, as if it was waiting for him to notice something, waiting for him to make a choice. He took a deep breath and looked around. The forest seemed ordinary in many ways, yet he could feel the difference. The air was lighter. The sounds of birds and insects were distant, almost like they were holding their breath. Ethan's heart beat faster, not from fear, but from anticipation. Something was here, something he couldn't see yet, but he could feel its presence. High above the trees, hidden in the clouds, the dragons moved slowly and silently. Their wings folded neatly against their sides, and their eyes glowed faintly as they watched the boy. Razak, their leader, led the group carefully. They had traveled light years to reach this moment, and now they were only steps away. But they didn't want to scare the child. They knew humans could be frightened by creatures like them, and fear could change everything. So they approached quietly, letting the forest shield them from sight. Ethan's eyes caught a sudden movement, a shadow moving across the trees. At first, he thought it was a bird or maybe a small animal. But it didn't feel like that. The movement was too smooth, too large, and it seemed to float rather than walk. He froze, unsure of what to do. Then he noticed the air around him shimmering, almost like heat rising from a sunny road, except it wasn't hot. It was a soft glow, gentle but noticeable. The first dragon revealed itself slowly, stepping from behind a cluster of trees. Its scales shimmered like polished stone, reflecting the sunlight in colors Ethan had never seen before. Its eyes were large and intelligent, and when it looked at him, he felt like it could see inside his mind. Ethan's first instinct was to step back, but something in the dragon's gaze was calm and patient, not threatening. He stayed in place, watching, trying to understand. Razak moved forward, keeping a respectful distance. His massive body cast a long shadow on the forest floor, but it didn't feel menacing. Instead, it seemed protective, like a shield that had come to watch over him. Ethan's curiosity overcame his fear. He took a small step forward, then another, feeling the strange pull of something he couldn't explain. The dragon lowered its head slightly, as if acknowledging him, and the air around Ethan seemed to pulse with warmth. For a moment, neither moved. Then, a soft sound filled the clearing, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. Ethan recognized it immediately. It was the same hum that had guided him here. This time, however, it felt stronger, more alive. It wasn't just around him, it was part of him. He realized that somehow the dragon and the hum were connected. The dragon's presence had awakened something in him, something that had been waiting to emerge. Razak's voice, deep and calm, echoed in Ethan's mind. He didn't speak out loud, yet Ethan could hear the words clearly, like they had been placed gently inside his thoughts. "Do not be afraid," the dragon said. "We mean no harm. We are here to protect you." Ethan's eyes widened. He had never heard words inside his head before, yet they were comforting, not confusing. He nodded slowly, unsure how he could respond. The dragon lowered its head further, closer to him, and Ethan noticed its eyes were almost like mirrors, reflecting not just him, but the forest, the sky, and a strange sense of something greater beyond. He wanted to speak, but no words came. Instead, he reached out his hand, trembling slightly, and touched one of the dragon's shimmering scales. The moment he did, a warm sensation spread through his body, filling him with a calm strength he had never felt before. It wasn't magic, not exactly. It was more like a connection, like finding the missing piece of a puzzle he didn't know existed. Behind Razak, the other dragons stepped forward, revealing themselves one by one. Each was different. Some had wings that sparkled like stars. Others had eyes that glowed like embers, but all of them moved carefully, respectfully, keeping their distance. Ethan's fear began to fade completely. Instead, he felt a strange joy, as if he was finally where he was meant to be. The dragons did not speak to each other, yet Ethan could sense their communication. It wasn't words. It was thoughts, feelings, and intentions flowing silently between them. They were observing him, studying him, but with no judgment, only care. Ethan realized that this was a kind of intelligence he had never encountered before. It was not human, but it was not cruel. It was understanding. Then Razak spoke again, this time letting Ethan know more. "You carry a gift, a spark that is rare among humans. It has been waiting to awaken. Others have searched for it for generations, and we have followed its signal to you. You are not alone." Ethan didn't fully understand what he meant, but he felt it in his chest, a tingling warmth spreading outward. The sense of purpose, the connection, and the calm assurance of the dragons filled him with courage. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged somewhere, like he had been prepared for this moment, even though he didn't know why. A soft wind blew through the clearing, rustling the leaves. It carried a faint, sweet scent, unlike anything Ethan had smelled before. The dragon lifted its head slightly, and the hum became louder, surrounding him completely. It was not just a sound. It was a message, an invitation to understand. Ethan closed his eyes, letting it flow through him, and for the first time, he felt truly awake. Something deep inside him had started to respond, and he knew that this was only the beginning. Suddenly, the hum shifted. It was not just inside him now, it was connecting with the dragons, linking them together. Ethan felt as though invisible threads had tied him to them, threads of warmth and light. He could sense their care, their patience, and their history. He understood, in a way words could not describe, that they had searched for him for longer than he could imagine. Not to take him away, but to guide him. The sun moved slowly across the sky. But Ethan did not notice. He was lost in the connection, feeling safe and curious all at once. He wanted to ask questions about why they had searched for him, about who he really was, but words felt small and unnecessary. The dragons seemed to understand without them. Razek stepped slightly closer and lowered his head so that it was level with Ethan's eyes. "You have the ability to shape things that others cannot see," he said. "It is a rare gift, one that can help many if guided well. That is why we are here." Ethan's heart raced. He had never thought of himself as special. He had never imagined that anything inside him could have meaning beyond his own life. But now, standing before creatures that had traveled across the galaxy to find him, he understood that he was different. And he understood that the dragons were not here to frighten him. They were here to protect and teach him. The other dragons began to move in a slow circle around him, maintaining distance but offering silent reassurance. Their presence was overwhelming, yet comforting. Ethan felt small and large at the same time, small because of their immense size, large because of the importance of the moment. He could feel history, time, and purpose wrapping around him like a soft blanket. For the first time, he spoke. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Who are you?" he asked. It was simple, but it carried a weight he could feel immediately. Razek's eyes softened. "We are guardians," he said. "We have searched for you because you carry something precious, something that is needed, not just here, but far beyond this world." Ethan nodded slowly. He didn't fully understand, but he felt the truth of it in his bones. Something important was happening, something bigger than anything he had known. And somehow, he knew that this was only the beginning. The forest around him seemed to lean in, listening. The birds, the wind, the very air, all seemed to recognize the moment. Time slowed, but not in a frightening way. It was as if the world itself had paused to honor the boy and the dragons standing together in a quiet clearing. Ethan reached out again, touching the dragon closest to him. The warmth of the scales, the calm in the eyes, and the hum that now seemed to flow through him gave him strength. He realized he didn't need to be afraid. He realized that he had a role to play, and that the dragons would help him understand it. The sun began to lower, painting the sky with soft oranges and pinks. The forest glowed in the evening light. Ethan looked around one last time, feeling a connection to the world he had known, and to the beings that had just entered his life. He understood, in a way he couldn't explain, that nothing would ever be the same again. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the dragons who had searched the galaxy to find him, Ethan felt the first stirrings of something incredible, the beginning of a journey that would take him far beyond the forest, far beyond Earth, and into the mysteries of the universe itself. Ethan stood in the clearing, still holding on to the dragon's scale. His heart was beating fast, but not in fear. This time it was excitement, curiosity, and something else he couldn't quite name. The forest around him seemed calm, almost as if it were watching the moment carefully. The wind moved softly through the leaves, carrying the hum that had guided him here, a sound that now felt like it belonged to him as much as it did to the dragons. Razak, the leader, looked at Ethan with gentle eyes. "There is something you must know," he said, his voice calm but serious. "You are not like other humans. There is something within you, a spark that has waited a long time to awaken." Ethan blinked. "A spark?" he whispered. I don't understand." Razak moved a little closer, keeping the distance that would make Ethan feel safe. "It is not something you see with your eyes, nor hear with your ears. It is something inside you, a gift that connects you to the energy of life itself. It is rare, more than you can imagine. It can heal, guide, or protect. That is why we searched for you all these years." The words made Ethan shiver. He had always felt a little different from other kids, but he had never imagined it was anything like this. There had been times when he felt emotions or thoughts that seemed bigger than himself, moments when he dreamed things that later came true. Until now, he had thought they were accidents, coincidences. But standing here with creatures that had traveled across galaxies just to find him, he realized it might all have been something else. The dragons began to move in a slow circle around him. Their wings stretched slightly, and the light reflecting from their scales created a shimmering pattern on the forest floor. Each dragon radiated calm strength and intelligence. Ethan could feel their thoughts, not like words, but like feelings carried through the air. They were not judging him. They were waiting, listening, observing, but with care, not fear. "You are not alone," Razak said. "There are others who know of your gift, but they do not seek to protect you. They seek to control it. That is why you must learn, why you must grow, and why we are here." Ethan's stomach twisted. He had never imagined anyone would want to control him, or the strange ability he might have. His mind raced with questions. Who were these others? What could happen if they found him? And how was it possible that these dragons knew so much about him? "You have the choice to understand your gift," Razak continued. "We will guide you, but you must choose to accept it. The path is not easy, and it may take you far from this world. But it is your path, and it will lead to things you cannot yet imagine." Ethan looked at the dragons, then back at the glowing clearing beneath his feet. He thought about his home, his parents, the streets of his town, the friends he had made. He thought about the woods he had explored since he was small. And then he realized he felt no fear of leaving it behind, not yet. The pull of this new purpose, this gift inside him, was stronger than anything he had ever felt. I want to learn," he said finally, his voice steady. "I want to understand." Razak's eyes glimmered. "Then we begin." The dragons slowly lowered their wings, and Ethan felt a warmth spread through the clearing. It was not like sunlight or heat. It was something different. It filled him with energy and clarity, and suddenly he could feel something moving inside him, like a small flame flickering to life. He had never felt anything like it before. Razak extended one of his claws, careful not to touch Ethan directly, but close enough that the warmth from the dragon radiated toward him. "Focus on what you feel," Razak said. "Do not think of what you are. Do not worry about what you can or cannot do. Just feel the energy." Ethan closed his eyes and tried to follow the instruction. At first, he felt nothing, only the cool forest air and the soft hum from the dragons. But slowly, as he breathed in and out, the energy inside him began to rise. He could feel it moving through his chest, down his arms, into his legs, spreading through his body like waves of light. It was strange and wonderful, and a little frightening too. "Do not be afraid," Razak said again. "You are ready. The energy will follow your thoughts, your feelings, and your intent. You will not harm yourself or others if your mind is calm and your heart is open." Ethan focused harder. He thought of the forest, of the trees around him, of the sunlight touching the leaves, of the gentle hum that had guided him here. Then, very slowly, he reached out his hands and imagined the warmth flowing from him into the clearing. At first, nothing happened. Then the air shimmered. Leaves lifted slightly from the ground, floating as if carried by invisible currents. The soft light of the evening seemed to bend toward him, not in a harsh way, but like water moving gently toward a small stream. The dragons watched quietly, their eyes reflecting pride and patience. They had seen sparks of potential before, but this was something rare, a child who could not only feel the energy but guide it, shape it, and connect with it naturally. Ethan opened his eyes, surprised at what he had done. The forest around him seemed brighter, more alive, as if it had recognized him. For the first time, he understood what Razak had meant. This gift was not just inside him. It was part of the world, part of something larger than himself. And for the first time, he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond playing, learning, or even surviving. Razak stepped closer again. "You have taken the first step," he said. "There is more to learn, and it will not be easy. But this is only the beginning. The world you know is small compared to what is waiting. Other beings will come, some to guide you, some to test you, some to try to take your gift. You must be ready." Ethan nodded, trying to take it all in. His mind was spinning, but in a good way. He felt excitement and curiosity, and a strange calm all at once. He realized that life would never be the same again. The boy who had wandered the woods, following dreams and whispers, was now standing at the start of something incredible. One of the smaller dragons, with scales that sparkled like silver, moved forward and circled him gently. Ethan laughed quietly. It felt good to laugh. "I never thought I'd meet creatures like you," he said. I always liked stories about dragons, but—" Razak's deep voice carried a soft rumble that felt almost like a purr. "Stories often contain truth. You may have read or heard legends, and some of them may have guided you here, even without your knowing. We are real, and your story is just beginning." The other dragons spread their wings slightly, creating a soft, shimmering wind that rustled the leaves. Ethan felt like he was surrounded not by strangers, but by friends, by guardians, by beings who cared deeply for him. He realized he could trust them, even though he didn't know them. That trust felt like the start of courage, a kind of courage he had never needed before. Razak tilted his head, studying him. "You must understand," he said, "that your gift is not just for you. It affects others, far beyond this forest. One day, you may need to protect, heal, or guide not only your world, but others as well. That is why you must learn, grow, and prepare." Ethan nodded again. He didn't fully understand yet, but he felt ready. He trusted Razak, he trusted the other dragons, and he trusted himself. Somehow, deep inside, he knew this was where he belonged. The sun dipped lower behind the trees, painting the forest in warm shades of orange and gold. Ethan's parents were still searching, still hoping, still unaware of the incredible moment happening just a few miles away. But Ethan did not feel fear or sadness for them. He knew that one day he would return stronger, wiser, and ready to help not only his family, but many others. For now, he stood in the forest clearing, learning to feel the energy inside him, surrounded by dragons who had searched for him for generations. The first steps of his journey had begun. He felt the stirrings of something incredible, something that would change his life and the world around him forever dot. And in that quiet, glowing forest, a boy and dragons began a bond that would last far longer than anyone could imagine, preparing for challenges, discoveries, and adventures that would stretch across the stars. Ethan had spent days learning from the dragons, though time felt different in their presence. Some moments seemed long, filled with the energy of quiet lessons, while others passed in a heartbeat, like flashes of light. Every day, he felt the spark inside him growing stronger, more alive. He could feel the energy moving not only through his body, but through the forest, the wind, the very air around him. He had never imagined it could feel like this, like the world itself was responding to him, like he belonged to something far bigger than himself. Razak and the other dragons had shown him how to focus, how to feel the energy without letting fear or doubt take over. They had taught him to close his eyes and imagine the flow of life as threads of light, weaving together all living things. At first, it was difficult. Ethan's mind would wander. He would think of his home, his parents, his small town, and the friends he had left behind. But the dragons were patient. Each time, they reminded him gently, "Your heart knows the way. Trust it." One evening, as the sun set and painted the forest in soft gold and pink, Ethan felt a shift in the energy around him. The wind whispered through the trees differently, carrying a feeling of urgency. The hum that had been his guide grew louder, stronger, and somehow more insistent. He looked at Razak, whose eyes glimmered with concern and focus. "It is happening," Razak said softly. "The time has come. You are ready to face what you were born to do." Ethan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had been learning for days, but now it felt real. The energy inside him pulsed like a heartbeat, and he could sense it responding to the forest, the dragons, and even the sky above. For the first time, he understood that this gift was not just something inside him, it was part of a bigger balance, something that affected the world far beyond what he had ever imagined. "Will it hurt?" he asked quietly. "No," Razak replied. "It will not harm you, but it may be overwhelming. You must focus and trust yourself." Ethan nodded. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. The dragons circled around him, their presence calm, steady, protective. The hum filled the clearing, surrounding him in warmth. He let the energy flow through him, feeling it reach into his fingers, his toes, his chest. The feeling was like nothing he had ever experienced, like being connected to every leaf, every gust of wind. Every living thing in the forest at once stopped, then it happened. The spark inside him flared, bright and strong. The forest seemed to respond. Leaves lifted gently into the air, twirling like tiny dancers. The sunlight bent around him, glinting off the dragon's scales and creating patterns that seemed alive. The hum grew into a soft melody, vibrating in harmony with his heartbeat. Ethan opened his eyes and gasped. He could feel the energy flowing outward, touching everything around him, making the trees, the wind, and even the earth itself pulse with life. Razak moved closer, speaking gently in Ethan's mind. "Do not stop. Let it flow. You are not alone. We are with you." Ethan focused harder. He thought about life, about growth, about healing and helping. The energy inside him seemed to understand. It responded to his intent, spreading further, reaching beyond the clearing, beyond the forest, beyond the town he had called home. It moved like a wave of warmth, light and calm, carrying the feeling of safety and peace to everything it touched. For a moment, Ethan felt weightless, as if he was floating above the forest, connected to every living thing at once. He could feel the trees, the animals, and even the wind, all moving in harmony with him. The dragons watched silently, guiding him, letting him feel the full power of his gift without fear. Then a soft voice echoed in his mind. Not from the dragons this time, but from somewhere deeper, something ancient and wise. "You are ready," the voice said. "The balance will be restored because of your choice, your courage, and your heart." Ethan didn't understand how he could hear the voice, but he didn't question it. He simply focused, letting the energy flow through him. The clearing glowed brighter and brighter until it seemed to shine like a small sun. The hum became a melody, soft and beautiful, like a lullaby, wrapping everything in warmth. He could sense that life around him was responding. The trees, the wind, the creatures hiding nearby, all felt calmer. Safer. When he opened his eyes, he saw something incredible. The dragon's eyes glimmered with pride and awe. Even the smallest dragon, which had been circling him playfully, now stayed still, as if recognizing the power of the moment. The forest itself seemed alive, shimmering with soft light, leaves floating gently, like they had been touched by magic. Ethan realized, with a mixture of wonder and joy, that this was what he had been born to do. The energy inside him was not just a gift, it was a responsibility. He could guide it, shape it, and use it to protect and heal. And in that moment, he knew he could never go back to the way things were before. Razak spoke again. "You have done well, Ethan. You have awakened what was always within you. But this is only the beginning. Others will come, some who do not understand, some who may wish to take what is yours. You must learn, grow, and trust your heart. You are ready to begin a journey that will take you far beyond this forest, far beyond your world." Ethan nodded, feeling both excited and calm. He looked at the dragons and felt a deep sense of gratitude. They had searched the galaxy for him, guided him, and shown him what he could become. He wanted to learn everything, to understand everything, and to use his gift to help others. Suddenly, a ripple of energy spread outward, reaching beyond the forest, beyond the town, beyond the horizon. Ethan could sense it touching other people, other creatures, even the sky itself. The world seemed lighter, calmer, as if the spark inside him had reminded everything that life was connected. It was not just a small power, it was a force that could change the world for the better. The dragons circled around him once more, their wings creating soft gusts of wind that mingled with the glowing energy. They were not just guides, they were companions, protectors, friends. Ethan realized he would never be alone again. He had a purpose, and he had beings who would help him fulfill it. As the sun set completely, the clearing glowed with a soft, golden light. Ethan looked at the dragons and felt a sense of wonder he could not describe. I think I understand now," he said. "I know I have to learn, but I feel like I can do this. I feel like I'm ready." Razak lowered his head to look at him closely. "You are ready," he said. "You have awakened what has waited for you all your life. You will face challenges, yes, but you will also discover wonders beyond your imagination. Remember this feeling, Ethan, the feeling that life is connected, that your heart is your guide. That will never leave you." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the energy still flowing through him. He could feel the dragon's presence around him, steady and strong. He could feel the forest, the wind, the earth beneath his feet. And he could feel himself stronger, braver, and more alive than ever before. The clearing was quiet now, but not empty. It hummed softly with the energy he had awakened, carrying the warmth and light of the moment far and wide. Ethan looked up at the sky, imagining the stars beyond, imagining the adventures that awaited him. He felt ready to face whatever would come, knowing he had the power, the courage, and the dragons by his side. And in that quiet forest, beneath the soft glow of the evening sky, something incredible had happened. A boy had awakened a gift that had waited for him all his life. He had connected with the energy of life itself, touched the world, and opened the door to possibilities far greater than he had ever imagined. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep joy. He knew his life would never be the same. He knew he had a purpose, a path, and a journey that stretched far beyond the forest, far beyond his home, and even beyond his world. And he knew, without a doubt, that he was ready. The dragons lowered their wings and circled around him one last time, as if honoring the moment. Then, silently, they lifted into the sky, fading into the clouds, leaving Ethan in the clearing, glowing softly with the spark of life and purpose. And in that moment, the boy and the dragons shared something eternal, a connection that would guide him, protect him, and remind him that he was never alone. The incredible event had happened, and the story of Ethan's gift had only just begun.